name is Heidi Campbell. I live at 8020 Marsh Road. First, I would like to thank all the board members who responded to my invitation to the laid off employee party. Thank you for taking the time to respond. I first want to start by saying I really like Brian. I've dealt with him with my children in the high school. I found him to be honest and fair in my past experiences with him. What I do not want is Mike Sherrill running Algonac from Midland. We need to cut those ties. Why are we disrupting 3 positions in 2 of our schools just as a point as supposed temporary interim positions? Wouldn't it have been better to place the assistant superintendent in the superintendent's office until a search has been conducted and a new superintendent chosen? The intern principal in the middle school has no experience as a principal. The middle school stands to have the most difficulty since they are getting a completely inexperienced administrator, while former principal Abe Lever goes to the high school. Although Abe does have experience at the middle school, it is completely different dealing with 14 to 18-year-olds than 11 to 14-year-olds. It is also possible to hire an interim superintendent while you are searching for a new one. Tom Shortney, the retired superintendent of East China, spent 2 to 3 years as interim in the Royal Oak schools, and then about 1 to 2 years in Port Huron as interim superintendent. This is just one example of how other districts could handle such things. We have been told the hiring pool is not deep enough this time of the year. We don't seem to be looking outside the district anyway, so how deep is it going to get? Why is such a complicated moving of chairs necessary for what the board claims is a temporary arrangement? Is this really temporary?
Jennings.
Good evening. Bill Jennings, 314 Edgewater, and it was nice to clap for Mr. Burke. It was nice to hear Mr. Burke. There was a constant mumble in the past, so it's nice to hear what you said. Thanks. I have a number of things to talk about, and I don't want to be antagonistic tonight. Debbie Meldrum retired last month, 30 years, right? She was served as 30 years as a bus driver in the district. Her retirement approval was stuck in the consent agenda items. I understand it's a personnel action. You know, putting it there and not saying something gave it about the same level of attention as the approval of your agenda minutes. It's a shame that this dedicated employee of 30 years didn't get a public thank you from the school board. There's probably 100 people in that group last month, and we've lost them for a 30-year retirement, and I just don't think that's right. I think dedicated employees like that need to be recognized. So, you know, Debbie's not here tonight, but I worked with Debbie, and so I'll just say that she was a dedicated professional who always did the right thing for the students. She was a dynamic individual, very level-headed, and always calm when kids gave her a hard time. And the parents of this community have truly lost a dedicated transportation professional. So, if you haven't done something like send her a card or call her on the phone, I would encourage you to do that. She wasn't in the meeting last month, and nobody said anything. This didn't seem to be right. Okay, there have been a number of community members, second topic, who have requested over the past years that this public body start video recording these public meetings. To date, nothing has happened. This community approved a $32 million bond a few short years ago, and one of the purposes of the bond is for technology. Every other elected public board in our community records their meetings for people to watch on Channel 6. There are a lot of citizens in our community who can't make these meetings because of work and family commitments, but they would like the opportunity to see our school board in action. Mr. Goulet's been on Facebook talking about the cost as being too much. So the Clay Township Supervisor, Artie Bryson, has offered the use of the Clay Township facilities for your use if need be, free of charge. He'll train a student to operate the video equipment. He will offer you the boardroom, the video recording devices, and you can take the disc over to Algonac and load it on Channel 6 until you have the ability or ever choose to do something with recording devices here. It all boils down to customer service once again. Chuck said it, transparency, and I applaud him for saying it. You speak about transparency often enough, so this should be one more opportunity for this group to offer the best transparency available by allowing any resident of our district to attend a school board meeting through our local Channel 6. I'm asking that someone from the district please respond to my request. Because there's been a lot of people up here, nobody ever gets any feedback as to what you're gonna do. I mean, if the answer is no, then let's say the answer is no, and we'll get more people in the community to start coming up and talking about this, because there's a lot of people in the community talking about this. My address and phone number are on the sheet. And I realize you might not respond here tonight, but I would also like to know, while we've laid off teachers, we've laid off bus drivers, custodians, but we're paying contracted personnel to cut the grass. This just seems like an unnecessary expense given our financial condition. I see the contractors on the lawn tractors. I play tennis out there 3 days a week. There's no reason why we should have contracted personnel cut the grass if we're going to pay custodians. I would also like to know, for my records, the exact amount that was paid to Mr. Sharrow upon his departure. This would include any payments for vacation days, sick days, the value of the annuity that the school was paying for, term life insurance the district was paying for, that he was the owner of the policy. Some people call this the golden parachute payment. I'd like to know what that total payment was. I would encourage all of you to respond to citizens when they come to these meetings. I understand when citizens come and stand up here and talk and ask questions, and some folks come because they got band problems. I've been here before, a lady came up and felt like her kid got hosed out of a band thing or something. I don't know exactly what it was, the band. But she couldn't get an answer, she was frustrated. You couldn't give her an answer. I mean, obviously, you don't know those answers at that time. But when you don't get an answer, it's frustrating, and people don't realize that why they can't get an answer. If the answer requires research or information gathering, it's understood and the meeting answer is not available. But over a year ago, the superintendent stated that you were going to work on a process to provide public feedback to all questions that were asked in meetings. So all these questions that I just asked that you're going to write me a nice letter about would be publicly told to the group that's here or the group that shows up next week. You stand up and say, a citizen, you don't have to name my name, you're welcome to if you want to, I don't care. You know, Bill Jennings stood up and asked this question, and here's the answer. So the rest of these people get the answer. And also, if you televise this stuff, then everybody in the community gets to see the questions and the answers about our school district. It might prompt more answers, more input, more valuable input from your community. To date, nothing's been done. Mr. Sharrow said you guys were going to work on that process, but nothing's been done. That was a year ago. Mr. Lando asked that question, and her response was we're going to work on it. These meeting minutes are official records, and they need to be complete and accurate. Facebook discussions from the board president are entertaining, but that shouldn't be the conduit for answering questions about our schools. And then the last thing I want to talk about was that buzzer and the 3-minute stuff, because you know that I understand you have to limit the time when things get long, but let me read your policy. Your policy 1370R says this about what you're supposed to do with public comments. The public participation portion of the meeting shall be limited to 1/2 hour. An exception can be made so that no one's right to address the board will be denied. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 5 minutes, except where the number of speakers exceeds the time limit. So unless you have 7 or more speakers, everybody gets 5 minutes. In those instances, the board president may either reduce the 5-minute limit to 3 minutes, or the board may waive the 1/2 hour time limit to establish a longer time period. So if you really have only 7 people, then you could say, okay, we're going to go for 35 minutes if it takes 35 minutes. Not everybody gets up and is long-winded like me, and I understand that. So, but your policy says last month you didn't have 6 people stand up, but you had a 3-minute timer that went off like the alarm in the gym, and that was just discourteous. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You know, I know it drags the meeting on if 20 people get up, but if 20 people get up, there's probably a good reason why 20 people are standing up, and somebody needs to take note of that. Each person wishing to address the board shall identify himself or herself by name and address, as I did when I stood up here. Nowhere in this policy does it say you have to fill out a blue form to speak to the school board. You're supposed to call for public comments. Anybody wishing to make a comment at that time gets to stand up. It's just policies. And you guys need to, if you're not familiar with these policies, somebody needs to read them, because, I mean, you just can't come in at a board meeting and decide you're gonna change this to do what you wanna do, and it doesn't even coincide with the whole policy. That's just not right. Thank you.
Thank you.